Today's video, I'm going to show you how to crush your next listing presentation, and it won't be because of some pretty packet or whatever that the gurus tell you. What's going on? It's your brother, your uncle, your favorite realtor's favorite realtor, Marvin, coming to you with another video. Today, we're going to talk about how to master your next listing presentation with a little bit of psychology and a little bit of humor. Obviously, in the world that we're living in, listings are going to be more important than ever, assuming that the NAR rules and all that jazz that's going on in our industry do go into effect in July of 2024. You're going to notice a shift in the importance between real estate agents on doing more listings versus buyer representation. Now, obviously, I'm not a doom and gloom realtor. I believe hustlers will continue to hustle. So my focus is always and will always be serving each and every client at the highest capacity possible. But if you are a part-time agent or an agent that doesn't want to drive all over the city, then your number one focus is going to need to be listings. First and foremost, we're going to break this down into how to first go about finding a potential listing and then mastering that conversation with that seller. Now, obviously, there are a lot of, tried and true methods that people talk about. You can go door knocking in a community. You can do circle prospecting where you're calling folks in a specific zip code. You can send mailers. The approach that I tend to take is going to be more of the individuals coming to me. So that could be creating YouTube content featuring other homes in your city and a potential seller seeing your video content and saying, hey, I like how that guy put that video presentation together. I want him to do that same thing for my home. So I get calls oftentimes from individuals that see my content on my other YouTube channels, and they want me to list the home for them and talk through some of the circumstances that'll get their home sold for the highest price possible. Now, most gurus will tell you that you got to put a very pretty listing presentation together. It's got to already have a CMA attached. It's going to have how you will be able to service the client and be able to just do all these great, cool things in order to get their home sold. But what I found in my experience is that sellers, they don't read any of that stuff. Seriously, they do not read the majority of that information. They just want to know that you, as the potential listing agent, will get the job done in the time that they need that home sold. So obviously, when you meet with them, you want to get in a space to where it doesn't matter how much information and packets and figures and market data and all that stuff that you put together. But the most important aspect of that listing presentation is going to be doing more listening than talking. Whenever I had and literally just had a listing meeting not too long ago that we closed on, my conversation with that seller was learning first and foremost the motivation behind selling. They tell me their story. They indicate that, they got to relocate, down south. They're retired and they just frankly want to, make their money and get on out of here. So that was the first thing that I wanted to kind of get an idea of the motivation. The next question that I asked my potential seller during the listing presentation, and again, it's all about asking questions and doing more listening. But the next question that I asked them is, okay, so we know the why that you're wanting to move. So tell me exactly how you're going to go about it. Do you need to remain in this home a particular period of time after closing? Are you going to vacate the property right now? What's the situation behind that? Once they tell me that story, again, that allows me to build even more information that will allow me to serve them at the highest level. Because obviously, if they're in that home, that's going to be a little bit of a problematic situation as far as showings are concerned, because I need that home accessible when buyers are interested in looking at homes. So if that's going to be something that we need to work through, then I will have them provide me a definitive schedule that is as flexible as possible, understanding that buyers want to look at homes as early as 9 o'clock in the morning to as late as 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. And then we build that plan from there. The next conversation that I have with them is really more so having them give me a tour of the property. Now, when I do the tour of the property, I'm looking at that home like a buyer, okay? I'm watching exactly how I feel when I enter the entrance of the property. Is there a lot of natural light that's coming through? Okay, awesome, that's a good thing. When I'm walking through the home, am I noticing any kind of weird smells? Does the house smell like fried chicken grease, or like a smoker's been in the home, or God forbid, mold, which you can truly smell in a home that does not have a good roofing system in place. And these are things that I'm making mental notes of, because if I were to point it out right then and there to my seller, I could probably kiss that listing goodbye, because I don't want the seller to have their feelings hurt based on some of the things that I know a potential buyer is going to point out and use as a reason either to not want that home or to expect some kind of deep discount on the price of the home. So as I'm having them, walk me through the home, if I'm noticing your normal wear and tear, that's not a big deal. I literally had a client think that there was like a scratch on the floor, where the floor kind of dipped a little bit, and he was concerned that the property might not pass inspection because it has a dip in the floor, and it was on a slab property. And I explained to him that that's not something, that's a deal breaker with an inspector. They don't care about, the floor dipping in a certain part. It literally was just something going on. It wasn't a foundation issue. It was just a weird place that the floor kind of dipped a little bit. As they're walking me through the property, I'm making mental notes of things like carpet, if the carpet needs to be shampooed or changed out altogether. And I'm being very strategic in the things that I think they should address proactively, and the things that we can probably get away with not having to deal with as it relates to listing the property for sale. Hey, if you've made it this far in the video and you are a real estate professional, consider partnering with me here at Real Brokerage. Pay nothing per month, get a fantastic split, and you have the opportunity to build a business through revenue share and stock purchases. Book a call at the link below in today's video, and I'm happy to have a conversation on why I was able to grow my business exponentially by moving my practice to Real Brokerage. All right, back to the video. Next thing that I do is that when I'm talking with the client, I also want to get an idea of if the home is currently under a mortgage, if it's paid off, if it is under a mortgage, what type of mortgage is it under, if it was a VA loan, if it was a conventional FHA, whatever that situation is, and how much they owe on the balance. The reason being is because in addition to taxes and real estate closing fees and of course our commissions, the bank, who is the person that is the primary note holder, is going to want to make sure that they get paid off. So I have to make sure that my seller is going to walk away with enough cash from the sale of this home based on the amount of equity that they've built up in the property. So you can, if you'd like, put together what's called a net sheet, which will give a rough estimation, and most closing attorneys and title companies can provide that for you complimentary. But ultimately speaking, you want to get an idea for them, what exactly are your financial expectations from the sale of this property? Because if you bought the home a year and a half ago or 2 years ago and you suddenly got to move where you're not, depending on the market that you're in, you're not going to walk away with a whole bunch of cash after, expenses. So kind of level setting their expectations on what they're expecting to walk away with. Some of them don't care about having any cash at closing. They just want to get from under this particular mortgage. So that's the conversations. It's really more like talking with a friend when I'm walking a property with a potential listing client and learning what's the most important thing to them and what are the areas that are not a big deal. The other thing that I always want to ask is if I can tell that the property is going to need quite a bit of work, I will ask proactively, how much of an incentive do you want to proactively provide to possible buyers on the front end? And so that could mean giving money at closing towards a rate buy down if interest rates are still, very, very high as of this video. That could also mean, covering closing costs proactively. It should be a specific dollar amount depending on the market and how competitive that market is that you as the agent may suggest, at least at some point during the process, that may be good to offer a potential buyer's client if we put the home under contract by a certain date. Now, obviously, I wouldn't say lead with all of this kind of stuff as far as what you want them to give up, but you will truly ask them how motivated are they to sell. And again, those factors based on the figures and numbers that you work in your head, I wouldn't personally recommend putting it on a pretty report. I would literally, because you want to win this listing, especially if as real estate professionals, listings become the part of your business that you want to focus on, it's going to be very important that you know your numbers. For one, you're going to look like a genius in that potential seller's eyes. And for two, you'll be able to set the right expectations for them and ultimately win that listing. People don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. And by giving these figures and providing that data literally off the top of your head, that's going to show that potential seller that you are not here to mess around and you are in it to win it. Because ultimately they're going to, potentially interview quite a few listing agents, and every single agent is going to tell them how they've got this amazing team, how they're going to take the most beautiful pictures of the property, all that. But 9 times out of 10, most sellers operate off of vibes. Most sellers operate off of discernment and how they feel when the person that's interested in selling their property talks to them. And for me, I come in like a friend. I don't necessarily tell them what they want to hear. I tell them what they need to hear. And I explain my background and the success that I've had with other sellers. This is a big freaking decision. What they're ultimately deciding to do is trusting you as their real estate agent to get the job done for them when it needs to be done. And I'm not mad at them at all. Now, of course, you have to make sure that you are willing to do the work that you are promising. And I don't want you as a real estate agent, you got commission breath, or you're, basically desperate, because sellers can pick that up. All humans can pick up desperation. So ultimately, you have to untether yourself from the outcome of that potential listing appointment. Literally come in like a friend. Don't just word salad them, don't just word vomit all over them and use all of this market jargon that they don't know what it means anyway. Truly approach this thing like a friend. Know your numbers, know what's going on in the community, and be able to rattle that information off without necessarily handing them a packet that shows all of these pretty data points and bubble charts and all that stuff. They ain't reading that stuff, I promise you. They're not. So if you get value from this particular video, and if you've had any success as a listing agent applying any of the things mentioned in this video, let me know in the comments below. I'm always happy to hear that, because my job is to help you get better, get sharper, and get faster. Now, before you go, YouTube feels like one of these 2 videos here would be something that you would enjoy. So do me a solid, subscribe to the channel and click on one of these 2 videos, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.